Every time you get close to the thing you actually want, something inside you flinches and calls it caution. You miss the deadline you had 3 weeks to finish. You start a fight the night before the interview. You stop showing up to the gym exactly when the results start to show. You get too busy for the follow-up call the week your project could finally land. You suddenly need to reorganize your entire desk the morning you were supposed to send the pitch. You call it bad luck, a busy week, not being ready yet, timing. It's none of those things. It's sabotage. And the person doing it is you. Here's the part that stings. You've been told this is a mystery, something to unpack slowly, gently, over years of therapy, with soft language and endless forgiveness. That story is comfortable. It's also a trap, because comfortable stories keep you exactly where you are. Seneca didn't write for people who needed comfort. He wrote for people who needed the truth. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. Sit with that for a second. Not success is hard, so I fail. I decided somewhere below thought that this is dangerous, and I built the difficulty myself, brick by brick, to prove myself right. You don't fail because success is hard. You fail because some part of you decided success is dangerous, and that part is winning. Every time, quietly, without ever raising its voice. Tonight, we take it apart. Not gently, precisely. Phase 1. Success threatens the identity you've already built. Here's something your brain will never admit out loud. It doesn't actually care if you're happy. It cares if you survive. And to an ancient nervous system, survival means staying exactly inside the pattern that's kept you alive so far, no matter how mediocre that pattern is. If you've spent years being the one who almost makes it, talented but unlucky, hardworking but never quite arriving, that identity is stable. It's known. It's safe in the narrow animal sense of the word. Nobody expects anything more from you. Nobody is disappointed when you fall short again, because falling short again is simply who you are. Real success blows that up completely. It demands you become someone new. Someone who is expected to perform at the new level every single time, not just once. Someone whose excuses stop working, because everyone just watched you prove they were never true. And some part of you experiences someone new as a kind of death of the person you are right now. Not metaphorically. Your nervous system does not distinguish cleanly between identity threat and physical threat. It responds to both with the same defensive machinery. So your mind does exactly what it's built to do. It protects the identity it knows by quietly sabotaging the outcome it doesn't, before that outcome can destroy the identity first. It would rather you stay a known failure than risk becoming an unknown success, because the known failure, however painful, has never actually killed you. The unknown has no such track record. This isn't weakness, it's a defense mechanism firing right on schedule, aimed at the wrong target. The threat it thinks it's protecting you from was never the deadline or the interview or the launch. It was change itself. Phase 2. The sabotage wears a disguise. Here's why it's so hard to catch. It never shows up labeled fear. It shows up wearing the mask of responsibility. I should double-check this one more time. Becomes a missed deadline. I deserve a break. I've been working so hard. Becomes the entire week before launch spent doing everything except the launch. I don't want to seem too eager. Becomes silence exactly when you should have followed up. I just need one more piece of information before I decide. Becomes a decision that never gets made at all. Every excuse sounds reasonable on its own. That's the design. No single brick looks suspicious. Stack them together, though, and they build a wall, one polite brick at a time. And you built it. Calling every single brick prudence, self-care, due diligence. Words that sound responsible enough that even you believe them in the moment. Stop chasing the excuse. It changes every time. That's the whole point of the costume. Today it's a headache. Next week it's a family obligation. The month after, it's simply not the right time. Chase the timing instead. It never does. It always lands in the final stretch, right before the outcome becomes real and impossible to take back. The night before, not the week before. The hour before, not the day before. That timing is the signature. It is more reliable than any specific excuse because it doesn't need language to operate. It only needs proximity to the moment where the old identity is finally, actually at risk. Learn it, and the costume stops working on you. You will start to notice, mid-excuse, the telltale shape of the pattern arriving again. And noticing it, even for a second, changes what happens next. Phase 3. Burn the exit before you need it. The part of you that sabotages is negotiating with an exit it's kept in reserve. As long as there's a version of the story where you can say, "I didn't really try," the sabotage has somewhere to retreat to. It doesn't need to win outright. It just needs an escape hatch. One plausible line it can feed you at 2 a.m. to make the retreat feel reasonable. This is why saying it out loud beats keeping it private. A private goal can be quietly abandoned and nobody will ever know the difference, including, eventually, you. A goal spoken aloud to another person changes the physics of the situation entirely. Tell someone the deadline. Post the goal somewhere you can't quietly delete it. Pay for it before you feel ready. So backing out actually costs something real, not just something emotional you can rationalize away by morning. This isn't about motivation. Motivation is a mood. It visits and it leaves, usually at the worst possible time, usually right when you need it most. Anyone building a life around waiting for motivation to show up is building on a foundation that was never designed to hold weight. This is about removing the soft exit fear has been counting on the whole time. Fear does not negotiate with courage. Fear negotiates with logistics. Take away the invisible door, the one that lets you leave without anyone, including yourself, noticing you left. And the part of you that sabotages loses its only real weapon: plausible deniability. It cannot argue you out of a commitment that has already cost you money, reputation, or a promise made out loud to someone who will remember. Phase 4. Interrogate the flinch. Next time you feel the pull to delay, to add one more unnecessary step, to pick a fight, to get suddenly, urgently busy right at the threshold, stop. Ask exactly one question. What is this protecting me from becoming? Don't answer fast. The fast answer is always a lie. Some version of, "I'm just being careful." Sit in the discomfort until something honest surfaces underneath it. Usually it's some version of being seen, of being visible, and possibly found wanting, in public, where everyone can watch it happen. Of having to hold a new standard once you've proven undeniably that you can hit it. Because after that, there's no more room for the comfortable excuse of, "I've never really tried." This single question does something willpower alone cannot do. It converts a vague, formless dread into a specific, nameable object. And specific objects can be examined. They can be picked up, turned over, evaluated for whether they're actually true. Name the fear precisely, and its grip on you drops immediately. Not because the fear disappears, it doesn't, not right away, but because a vague dread can only be obeyed. It has no shape to argue with. A named one can finally be evaluated, questioned, and in most cases, found to be smaller and less accurate than it felt in the dark. This is not a one-time exercise. The flinch will return, probably tomorrow, probably at the next threshold. Ask the question again. Every time you name it, the interrogation gets faster, and the fear gets a little less able to operate in silence, which was always the only place it actually had power. Phase 5. Act before the committee convenes. Machiavelli understood that hesitation gives your enemies time to organize. Your internal committee, doubt, caution, the old identity, every past failure with a vote, works exactly the same way. The longer you sit between the decision and the action, the more time that committee gets to reconvene, gather evidence, and vote against you. This is why disciplined people don't wait to feel ready. They act inside the gap, before doubt has time to build its case, call its witnesses, and deliver its verdict. The gap is narrow. It might only be a few seconds. But a few seconds of unopposed action is worth more than an hour of prepared, well-reasoned hesitation. Build the habit of moving within seconds of deciding. Send the email before you reread it for the 4th time. Show up before you've rehearsed the perfect version of yourself, the one who never stumbles over a word. because that version doesn't exist, and waiting for it is just sabotage wearing the costume of perfectionism. Count backward from 3 if you have to, not to think about it. Thinking is exactly how the committee gets its seat back at the table. Count and move on 1. The body acts. The mind catches up afterward, and by then, it's too late for the committee to matter. The version of you who acts imperfectly, immediately, will always beat the version of you waiting for a permission slip that was never coming. Because the only person who could grant that permission is the same part of you that's been trying to sabotage you the whole time. It was never going to say yes. It was never designed to. What happens when the sabotage loses? You won't become fearless. That's not the goal. And anyone selling you that is selling you something else entirely, usually a course. You simply become someone who acts alongside fear instead of waiting for its approval. The deadline gets met while fear is still talking. The launch happens while doubt is still deciding what its opening argument is going to be. The conversation gets had while the old identity is still drafting its objection. And slowly, one closed gap at a time, the part of you that used to guarantee your own defeat runs out of leverage. Because leverage needs your cooperation, your silent agreement to keep negotiating instead of moving. And you've stopped giving it that agreement. This does not happen all at once. It happens the way debt gets paid off, unglamorously, one repetition at a time, mostly invisible from the outside, until one day you notice you didn't flinch at something that would have stopped you cold a year ago. If you saw yourself somewhere in this, comment, "I see the flinch." That's the first move, catching it in daylight, instead of letting it run the show in the dark, unopposed, for years, deciding your outcomes without ever once asking your permission. Subscribe if you're done losing to a version of yourself that was only ever trying to keep you small, and calling it safety. There's more architecture to take apart, and most of it you built without even knowing you were the one holding the tools.